The new season is only a few weeks away, so it's about time we previewed it. Welcome to part 1 of our 2020 season preview. Welcome to your official Coventry Bears podcast. Welcome to Bare Necessities. Yes, it's preview time here at Bare Necessities, your official Coventry Bears podcast. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts and at coventrybears.com. And over the next 2 weeks, we're going to bring you a thorough preview of the 2020 season. And who are we, you might ask? Well, I'm one of your hosts, Dave Musson, and joining me as always is former Bears fullback Craig Cathcart. Craig, the new season is fast approaching. Are you excited?
Yeah, we're nearly here, mate. We're nearly here. I'm getting very excited. Every Sunday now, it's kind of like a couple more weeks and we're nearly there. So yeah, it's going to be really good.
So we've got loads to get through over these next 2 episodes, and not only will Craig and I be previewing the Bears' upcoming campaign and looking at what the rest of League One has to offer, but we're also very lucky to have been joined by the new Bears CEO Debbie Watson, and we'll split that interview over the next 2 weeks too. There's loads of good stuff in it, and it's really worth spending a couple of episodes with it. And as if that wasn't enough, we'll also get excited about the third round of the Challenge Cup, which is of course where the Bears come in. More on that later in the episode. But first, a couple of bits of news. So one's practical and the other is something quite exciting that hopefully plenty of you out there will be able to get involved with in some way. So the practical bit first, this podcast is now back on YouTube. You can find all episodes from now on the official Bears YouTube channel, as well as on all the usual podcast spots, of course. And we know plenty of you listened to us via YouTube when we first started. We finally got it sorted to get the new official episodes up on the Bears channel as well. And I'm sure at some point I'll be able to make a playlist of the old ones and pull those across as well if you're really desperate to go back and listen. But yeah, that's good. So if YouTube is your chosen flavour for getting these episodes, then it is back there and ready for you. Second, the much more exciting news. So we at the podcast have teamed up with our friends at the Bears to offer bands and musicians in Coventry and Warwickshire the chance to have their music played at the Butts Park Arena on match days and be played on this very podcast. So basically, artists, if you're interested, all you need to do is submit a track over at coventrybears.com/music. And for every home game, 2 artists will have their song played in the stadium. And then every week on this show, we will play out the episode with a song. And not only that, if selected, you'll get featured in the matchday programme. You'll be invited to come to the game to hear your song played over the tannoy. And when you're at the game, you can get interviewed by this podcast as well. All the details, as I say, are on coventrybears.com/music. And we're looking for any genre. The only rule here is no swearing. So whether you're acoustic folk or full on black metal or anything in between, we would love to hear from you, especially if you're full on black metal. Craig, we know there's so much musical talent and heritage locally, and the club is very proud to be part of Coventry. This is just a really cool thing the club has agreed to do with us, and it's a great way to count down to Coventry being capital of culture next year as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I think over the last sort of 5 to 10 years, I think music in Coventry has really taken off. There's some absolutely fantastic local bands, all, as you said, all genres as well. There's great singer-songwriters. There's some really good heavy bands in Coventry and Warwickshire at the moment. And some real good pop stroke indie acts as well. So it's I'm pretty sure there'll be quite a lot of replies to this. I'm looking forward to hearing what's out there in the Coventry area. You know, I must admit I don't. There's a few local bands that I'm into, but I know that there is so much on-tap talent out there. I'm really looking forward to hearing it.
Definitely. So don't forget, if you are a band or an artist from Coventry and Warwickshire and you want your chance to have your tunes played at the Bears and on this podcast, get over to coventrybears.com/music, and who knows, your song might well be being played on this podcast and at a Bears home game sometime soon. Right then, so before we hear the first part of our season preview interview with Bears CEO Debbie Watson, Craig and I are going to start our season preview with a look around the rest of the league. So we're going to unpick what League One has to offer in 2020. And to do that, we're each going to nominate the team we're most excited to see the Bears play, the side we think will bring the best away support to Coventry, the team that frankly we're most scared to see the Bears have to tackle, and we'll each pick a dark horse for 2020 that isn't the Bears, of course. And then on next week's show, we're going to go deeper on the Bears themselves. So, Craig, let's go in that order, and we'll start with you and your pick for the team that you're most excited to see the Bears play in 2020. Who have you got?
It's actually our opening game, and it's a team that I've dropped down into League One. So a new team for us to see this year. So Rochdale Hornets. I think it's always great to play new teams when they come into the league. It's another away day. Rochdale, there's a lot of hype around Rochdale at the moment because Andy Maisy, who was the ex-Swinton chairman, is on board with them now, and there's a lot of promotion and a real feel-good factor around the club. They had a pretty disastrous season last year in the championship, but they're looking to rebuild and move back up through the leagues. I mean, they're historically a big team. They play at a fantastic stadium. Spotland is quite a famous rugby league stadium, or Crown Oil Arena, as it's known for sponsorship reasons. But yeah, it'd be great to go and watch them away, the Bears away at Spotland, and in a great stadium with brilliant facilities. And I think there'll be a challenge to play. There'll be a challenge to play them, but I get the feeling that it's very good for Bears to play them at home as a first game, because Rochdale won't know what to expect with the Bears. It's a good opportunity to try and get a win on the board early.
Definitely. If ever there's a chance to catch them cold, it's going to be then. For me, I'm going for Newcastle Thunder. I thought they were terrific last season. I think they had their best season in years. And, they're incredibly ambitious. I mean, this is a club that's aim is to win Super League in 2030, which is only 10 years away, and that's pretty ambitious. I think they're a really exciting prospect. And what I like seeing about Thunder is that there are plenty of parallels with the Bears too. I mean, you look at it, they've got a close relationship with the rugby union side. They're in an area where traditionally league is not that big a sport, but is definitely growing. And they're, both Newcastle and Coventry are sports mad cities where there's generally sort of one club per sport. So there's a really passionate support there to tap into. And I think Thunder's off season has been good. They've made some strong signings. Very excited at the prospect of seeing QLT in person at fullback at the Butts. And in Dennis Betts, they've got a really great experienced guy at the helm. But of course, not forgetting, the Bears blew Thunder away at the Butts last season with that absolutely thrilling win. And I'm really curious to see if we can do it again. And just, I guess above all, I just really admire how Thunder go about their business. And you can't help but feel like they are gearing themselves to move up the ladder and sort of getting set for bigger things in the near future. And I guess it's almost part of this pick is like the fact that we sort of need to enjoy having them in League One while we can, because you feel like they're not going to be in this division for that much longer, I wouldn't have thought. So that's my pick, Thunder.
Yeah, good choice.
So next up then, it's our pick for best travelling support to visit the Butts. So I'll start this one, and I'll start by saying that obviously we absolutely love seeing any and all away support. I think it really adds to the experience on match days, and it's great to chat to different folk at every match from different parts of the country. So this is, I guess this pick is not necessarily singling out the best, as it were. It's just ones we particularly looking forward to. From my point of view, I think that the travelling support that, one of the bunches of them that we're all going to remember at the end of the year has to be Barrow Raiders. I mean, you've got to love your team to follow them from the outpost that is Cumbria/Lancashire, depending on how old you are and whether you see Barrow as being in Cumbria or Lancashire or not. But that Raiders support is just ferocious and fantastic. I remember them coming down in 2017 would have been last time they were down at us, and they were great. And I think it was sad to see them get relegated from the Championship last year, but kind of selfishly we've got that nice bonus that we get to welcome that lot back to Coventry. And it also forces our president, Ron Banks, to sort of have slightly divided loyalties too, which is always a bit of a giggle. So Craig, who have you got as your favourite / best away support?
I couldn't. I had to narrow it down to two.
Okay.
Two teams whose fans I always admire when they come down. The first one's another Cumbrian team, Workington. They always bring big numbers whenever they come down, even though it's such a long trip down to Coventry. They're always genuinely nice people, really easy to get on with. They chat to the Bears fans. They support their team no matter what. But I just remember last year as well that when the Bears won, they were, congratulating everyone, and obviously they were disappointed with the result. But we have seen fans from other clubs who've not been quite as magnanimous in defeat, shall we say. Mm-hmm. So, I was really, really impressed with them last year, and I think they'll bring a big crowd down with them this year, down to the Butts Park Arena. The other mention, and this is why I couldn't just say one team, but I have to mention North Wales. Always bring loads. I mean, I think one year they brought 2 to 3 bus loads down.
Always loud as well.
Yeah, they're loud. They've got a drummer. They sing and chant all the way through the game. But they're also friendly. I've never seen any animosity at all. Well, I've been away to North Wales a couple of times in the last couple of years. And their fans are friendly, but they back the team 100% and make, as I said, and make a lot of noise. They usually locate in one area of the stand and make a real loud din there, and it's really enjoyable when they come down to visit.
Yeah, both excellent choices there. I did wonder if you'd go for North Wales. I know we've commented on how great their away support is in the past, and I think this year being back at the Butts and having the sort of Bears supporters area more established, I think it'll be interesting to see where the Crusaders fans park themselves, and should be quite a ferocious atmosphere that game. It'll be a good one. Okay, so now then we're going to pick the team that we are, as I said, quite frankly not looking forward to the Bears having to face. It's the side that we're most scared of in League One for the Bears. Craig, you can go first on this one. Who are you worried about?
It's a team you've mentioned already, Newcastle Thunder. Mm-hmm. I just think they're going to be really strong this year. They'll be disappointed they didn't get promoted last year. I think they probably were, they were one of the top 3 teams in the league. I think Oldham probably and Whitehaven just edged them just because Thunder had an ability to be a little bit inconsistent at times. And obviously they started badly, losing to the Bears as well, and took them a while to get going. But the one thing to say is I think when we played them away last year, the fact that we beat them earlier on in the season seemed to egg them on even more, and they really were up for that game.
That's a good point,
Give the Bears an absolute hammering, to be honest, and up at their place. I think it'll be the same this year, so that puts a little bit of worry in. But as you said, I'm quite intrigued to see if we can, if we can match our performance at home from last year. I think they'll probably be a bit edgy coming down to the Butts Park Arena, having lost here last year. So, yeah, at the same time, though, I am a bit worried about what ongoing repercussions might come from that win last year. So.
Fair enough. So my choice is Doncaster. It just feels like throughout the time we've done this podcast, whenever the Bears have faced the Dons, we've been absolutely walloped, and it's always been a really tough game. They're so ruthless as an opposition that, even in games when the Bears have played okay against Doncaster, it's been a big score against them because the Dons just don't miss any opportunities. And this year, they look like they mean business even more than they have done so previously. I mean, their pack was already big and they've made it bigger. We've commented before on their setup and the stadium and the facilities they have is just really a step above and really daunting in some ways, just that facility they have access to. But let's face it, the main thing, Rangi Chase is far too good for League One, and he's going to give them a lot of points this season, and I think if they click, they could be absolutely devastating for anyone who faces them. So yeah, as is always the way, I'm not particularly looking forward to us playing Doncaster. I feel like they're going to have quite a big year.
Yeah, they've got I think they've got a fantastic CEO in Carl Hall as well, someone who really knows the game inside out. He's not gone in there and thought we're going to spend tons and tons of money to try and get up through the leagues. What he's done is he's taken an approach where they're building something, and I think this year as well they've tried to cut the cord a little bit. I think with the dual reg agreements, I think they had a dual reg agreement with Hull FC. I think it was trying to cut the cord, and they've signed a few players. But they always play good rugby as well. They've got some really top quality players. So yeah, I kind of agree with that. I think they'll be a bit of a force this year.
Yeah. So last up then, it's time to pick our dark horses for one of the League One promotion spots. I guess potentially the title, but potentially the other promotion spot. So I'll go first here, and I'm picking North Wales Crusaders, and these are very much my dark horses to sneak in through the playoffs. And I'm saying it for a couple of reasons. First, we know first-hand experience they've got some very, very good players, because there's a bunch of them who are former Bears in that squad, and we've seen up close on many occasions. So just thinking Kieran Sherratt, Chris Barrett, Dante Morley-Samuels, Matt Reed, Brad Brennan, they're all high-quality players. But I think for me, most importantly, there's a really settled feel to everything that's going on in North Wales this year. They've got the turnover of players going into 2020 has been pretty small. They've had a lot of the squad have committed again from last year, and last year they were quietly very good. They went about their business very efficiently last year, and I think their actual physical location means that they're branching out into Heartlands players a bit more as well. And we've covered North Wales Crusaders games quite a lot in the time of doing this podcast. They're always difficult to beat. We haven't talked about that many Bears victories against North Wales, and that says a lot. And they're almost the definition of a dark horse. You look around, hardly anyone's mentioned them as potential challengers this year. I mean, apart from me, pretty much. So I think they're going to have a good year, and I think they've very much got the ability to sneak under the radar, and come business end of the season, they could well be in the mix, and that it wouldn't surprise me at all if they surprise plenty of people this year. Who's your dark horse, Craig?
So I think this team probably don't qualify as being a dark horse, because I think a lot of people know that they're a good side. But looking at predictions online and the betting odds and everything else, quite a few other teams are a bit more fancied, but I think Workington will be a lot stronger this year. I think they're in for a good season. I think they've got a great coach in Chris Thorman. He's had an opportunity to come in sort of midway through last season. His first game in charge was against the Bears, wasn't it, where they lost? So he's had he's had a full pre-season. He's had an opportunity to look at his players. I'm thinking they probably need a couple more signings before the start of the season, but I think they might do a bit of a Whitehaven this year and surprise a few. I think the Cumbrian teams obviously have a bit of a disadvantage with the number of long away trips they've got, but they also have a good home advantage in that everyone has to come to them. So I think they'll be strong at home. I think they'll win most of their home games. And it wouldn't surprise me to see them up there at the end of the season.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you on that. Good stuff. Okay, well, that's our League One preview done then. In terms of the rest of the league, next week we'll look at the Bears in more detail. But now we've got a bit more stuff to get through this episode. Challenge Cup talk coming later on, but first let's go to the first part of our interview with New Bears CEO Debbie Watson. There is loads of great stuff in this, so get comfy and listen in. So Debbie, welcome to the podcast. First question first, how are you enjoying life as a CEO so far?
Thank you, and thank you for having me on. It's busy, but then my role within the Bears has always been busy. It's exciting. It's nice to have a title. It's nice to be called the CEO, whatever that actually means. I suppose it really is just about being a little bit more focused on what parts of all the millions of tasks that need to be done, what parts I need to focus on, and then obviously which parts Alan focuses on. But yeah, it's exciting and busy.
So I guess a lot of people see CEO and they have visions in their head of what that might be. In terms of what being CEO of the Bears is, what exactly does it involve?
Yeah, it's a fancy title, isn't it? I think it's really a coordination role. For me, particularly, it's about coordinating everything that's not rugby playing related. Mm-hmm. So obviously Alan sort of moved over and he's director of rugby. So he's involved with the players on a day-to-day basis and putting the team together in the squad and all those sorts of things, ensuring that the coaching staff and the medical staff are all on track and doing those sorts of things. And I suppose everything else then falls under my remit. So he's more focused on the playing side and I'm more focused on everything off the field, as it were. Mm-hmm. So it's mainly coming up with the strategy for the club, the goals. I deal with the HR stuff, so human resources, making sure that all of the staff are in place and that they're on the payroll and they've got their qualifications checked and all those sorts of things. I'm responsible for safeguarding, responsible for organising the game day. There's a lot of things that need to be done with the Rugby Football League, the RFL, so things like safety of the ground, attending meetings with the RFL and other clubs, making sure we've ticked all the boxes and doing all the returns that we need to. Obviously, previously, my main focus of my role was finance, so I'm still doing that also. And another main part of my previous role, which I will also carry on, is the coordination of all the community activity. So really that's a sort of embedding a player pathway right from sort of 5-6-year-olds through our junior setup all the way into sort of the colleges and universities, so that longer term we've got players who are coming from the Midlands and the local Coventry area to be players of the future. So I look after that too. So it sounds quite a lot when I put it all, when I explain it all like that. Yeah,
I was going to say exactly that. It's incredible. There's lots of great stuff going on. One of the things you've mentioned in the off season is about the fact of the Bears always being a family club. I mean, it's obviously with your other half being its founder and you being so deeply involved. Yeah. I'm just curious in the off season. So when Alan took over the role of director of rugby and the sort of the CEO post got freed up, as it were, was there ever any question of somebody else coming in, or was it something you always wanted to do, and was there a desire to sort of keep it in the family, as it were?
Yeah, I mean, it's a difficult one, really. I suppose it isn't particularly something that I ever saw myself being. Obviously, with Tom going on to his new role, which was fantastic for him, it was a bit of not a shock to us, but it was a sort of, oh, okay, what are we going to do here? And it was the natural progression, really, for Alan to pick up that, that part of the role and move with it. And therefore, it was the natural thing for me to step in as CEO. So it wasn't something we'd ever actually planned to happen like that, but that's how it worked out. Was there a question of anyone else coming in to do it? Not really. Yeah. I'm sure probably people think that Alan and I are millionaires, but obviously we're very not. We're not wealthy at all. There is no finances. There's no pay for the CEO. I don't take any wage or salary from working for Coventry Bears. So therefore, if we were taking on somebody else to be CEO, we would have had to find some money, some finances somewhere to pay for them. So not really. There's also, I suppose, the issue, if there was somebody else coming into the role, we would need time to recruit them. They'd need to settle in. They'd need to understand the nature of running a club, have induction, and then obviously there's a possibility of them leaving in the future. So there just wasn't really a question of who it would be, really. It was just the natural sort of step for me to take on. Yeah. And fortunately, in my other role, I'm a teacher. I'm part-time at the moment, so I've got the capacity to do that. Yeah. So that's sort of how it came about. But as you say, with the family feel run of the club, it wouldn't be the natural thing for somebody external to come in. Certainly an unknown person to us. We always like to keep it within the family, within our close sort of family and friends relationship with our staff and volunteers for the club.
Well, I was going to ask, is it important to you to keep that family feel at the Bears?
Yeah, it is really. I mean, it's almost like our USP, our unique selling point. It's not planned. It's just the way that it is. As I say, we're not millionaires, Alan and I. We don't have links across the world, international businesses. We don't have deep pockets that we can just, throw finances at it. We are quite well known within the city, within sort of sporting circles, within local communities, and I would like to hope within local businesses as well. And so therefore, that's what we work within. And so therefore, again, it's sort of natural that it is a family-run organisation. We have lots of volunteers and staff, as you know, and you and Craig are some of those amazing volunteers that help us on and off the field. And that's really what we want it to be. We like to know everyone who's involved with us, and we really appreciate everyone who's involved with us. And that's what we want it to stay. We're not a big business. We haven't got unending finances, so we like to keep that family feel. And from what we hear from the fans and from the players, I think they like that. So therefore, that does become our unique selling point. So it's, again, just keeping it within the family feels like the natural thing to do at the Bears.
Yeah. So there's you and Alan at the top of the club, and I think most people listening will have probably seen any or all of your children at some point on match days as well, like part of the ball crew or being on the gates or whatever. You clearly put so much of your lives into this club. I'm curious, do you guys talk about the Bears at home, or do you try and keep the two separate?
Yeah, no, of course we do. It's hard, really. I mean, we try to have some separation, but it is hard. It's like you say, it's a family-run business. It's not the most sociable hours of business. So obviously, Alan's out a couple of evenings a week with the Bears, training with them. Match days are on a weekend, so it does become part of our family. As I say, due to the nature of my other job, my role as a teacher is part-time, so it works quite well. Alan and I try to talk about the Bears while the kids are at school during the sort of normal 9 to 5 working day, but inevitably it does spill over. For example, our first game of the season is on the 16th of February, and that's Blake's birthday.
Oh, right.
So my little boy turned 7 that day, and we've already explained to him, I'm really sorry, we've got a Bears game on that day. So we'll have party the day before, and he's fine with it. But yeah, it's a part of our family. The Bears is part of us, and our kids have grown up with it, really. So I think they don't know any different.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess lots of talk in the run up to a new season is often about new players and new signings. But if you look at this year, I think arguably a bigger story is the fact that the Bears are not only back at the butts for this season, but for the next 3 years. I guess how pleasing for you is that, and how important is it to have that agreement, particularly around making it easier for you as CEO to sort of to strategize and plan and just know you're going to be in Coventry for a good chunk of time?
Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head, really, Dave. It's really important to have stability, to know what's happening next week, next year, and like you say, for the next 3 years. It's really important. It was really disappointing last year that we were on the road. It almost ruined us as a business, unfortunately. It was difficult. It was difficult logistically. We had to sort of move all our gear, all our stuff, all our equipment and everything, and set up and have lots of meetings in advance. And it was great in some respects. And, we really appreciate Broad Street and Rugby Lions for making us so welcome there. But it wasn't our home ground, and it wasn't Coventry Bears. And, just on that point, really, I really want to express our appreciation to all the players, the fans, the volunteers and everyone who stuck with us last year. We know that it was difficult, the uncertainty, being in different places, playing at different venues, and we do appreciate them sticking with us. But it's great news that we're back at the butts. We're really pleased. It took a long time to get that over the line and have that agreement, but it's so nice to know that for 3 years now we're going to be back at the butts. And I'm sure you'll agree from our pre-season friendly, it's fantastic. The pitch is amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
We've got we've built a much closer relationship with Coventry Rugby in the Butts Park Arena, and that's fantastic. I suppose fans and players and staff as well need to sort of appreciate that because of the new facilities and the new pitch that's been laid, our rent has gone up. And obviously, you have to pay for things like car parking and things like that. But we just want people to understand that some things are out of our control, and we just want the best playing environment for our players, and we want our home games to be as good as possible. Unfortunately, that does mean that costs go up, and therefore the price of match tickets goes up, but we hope that people will stick with us and want to come along and see us play in that amazing facility. It really is world-class facility, and we're so lucky to have it. And it's great that we've now got that 3-year relationship with the Butts Park Arena.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, I'm sure from speaking to people I've already spoken to, they're equally excited about being back. So I don't think there'll be any trouble getting people to stick around. Brilliant.
It's such a central location, isn't it? It's, for everybody who associate with a team within the city, they want a good location, they want a central location, and they want the facilities to be as good as they can be. And I'm confident that we've got that at the Butts Park Arena. So fingers crossed everyone comes along with us.
Yeah. So I can't imagine that in the professional men's game at the moment there are too many women CEOs. Do you see yourself as a bit of a trailblazer in that respect?
What, like Karen Brady?
well, I could think of nicer examples.
No. As I explained, it's just a natural fit, really. I suppose I do sort of have the, blow my own trumpet here, but I do have the sort of the skills and the abilities to fulfil the role. I'm a business studies and economics teacher by profession. So I do understand about how to set goals and how to coordinate, what our priorities are and our core competences and all of those sorts of things. So it is kind of the natural role for me. I don't think I'm going to be setting the world on fire. I know that it probably is unusual that I'm a female CEO in a rugby league world, but it's just a role. Alan obviously takes care of all the rugby side of things, and I take care of all the business side of things.
Yeah, I mean, on that point about the women in this game of rugby league. I mean, it is a sport that is very welcoming to women, and actually the women's game globally is growing at a rate of knots. And I know the Bears previously had a women's team, and a lot of this is around being able to get players together and secure opposition. But if you could tick those things off, would you like to see that women's Bears side revived at some point?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I wouldn't have any objections to it at all. It's not really a priority for us now. I think after, we've only been professional for a few years. We've obviously had some uncertainty around our home location last year. It's not really a priority. Our core competence is the men's team. That's what we're good at. That's where our expertise lies. What we need to focus on now is having a pathway to feed into the men's team. And that's via our junior setup and all our links with local schools and colleges and the universities, and obviously other clubs around the local sort of area. We do have females who train with us in the juniors, and that's great. Their numbers aren't great. There's not lots of them, but females are very welcome to come and play with us in the junior setup side. Alan and I, together with Troy Perkins, also have a franchise of Tri-Tag Rugby, where we have females and males play in almost equal mix in the teams. At least three females need to be on the pitch at any one time out of a team of 7. So we have loads of females playing across the city, in Coventry and in Leamington and Warwick. As you guys know, you've played with Tri-Tag Rugby with us, haven't you?
Yes.
So there definitely there is a lot of interest in females being part of the game. As I say, it's not really a priority for us now, but as things settle down and we get that stability, that might be something we look at in the future.
Help out the Bears even more in 2020 by joining the free Our League app. Not only will you get access to great news and content from across Rugby League all week, that's League One, Championship, Super League, the Women's Super League, PDRL and the international scene, you'll also find matches live streamed every weekend, podcasts, competitions, games and more. And even better, you can select the Coventry Bears as your chosen team to proudly show off your support for our club. We'd also really appreciate it if you did select the Bears as your team, as there's a chance that some of our funding could be dependent on how many registered fans we have on our league in the future. So the more the merrier. Join now for free by searching for the Our League app in your app store or by visiting membership.rugby-league.com. Huge thanks to Bears CEO Debbie Watson for joining us, and don't forget we'll have the second part of that chat next week. Okay, before we sign off, we need to reflect on the draw for the third round of the Challenge Cup, which took place on Monday and saw the Bears handed a tough trip away to fellow League One side Hunslet. So Craig, we'll have your reaction to the draw in a second, but first a very quick word on our friends at Sherwood Wolf Hunt. They sadly weren't able to make it through to round 3, but they put on a great show last weekend. They raised loads of money for the Rob Burrow Fund, and generally they just did Midlands Rugby League really proud, didn't they?
Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic for them. Fantastic for Midlands Rugby League. It's great to see a new young club. I think they're only 3 years old, thriving, and they've brought so much attention to themselves, and people all around the country have been keeping an eye on them and interacting with their posts on social media. So they've done a fantastic job of promoting the game, and I think they had over 600 fans on a really wet, miserable, horrible day.
Yeah.
That's a brilliant achievement. That's such an amazing attendance. I think they are a club going places, and I really hope that they continue to grow and thrive. And it looks to me like they've got really good people behind the club. They did really well in the game itself. I mean, they were outplayed in the end by an experienced team. I think the Wolf Hunt, most of their squad are union converts. I did notice an ex-Coventry Bears player, Richie Hughes, playing for them, and he had an excellent game, by the way. They've got a lot to learn, but they'll have gained a huge amount of experience as well from playing a team that is experienced at this level. So good luck to them, and I hope one day that they'll be playing the Bears in a league match.
Yeah, definitely. So Hunslet away then for the Bears. It's a tough draw, but you never know, do you?
I think for me anyway, in terms of, I wanted a home game. I wanted to play a team we'd not played before, just for the experience of that. But you know what? In terms of away draws, that's not too bad. It's going to be a tough game, but it's not a long journey. It's actually, I think it's one of our shorter trips now.
Yeah.
I think possibly only North Wales and Scholars are closer. It's straight up the road, and it takes a couple of hours to get there. So the other thing to say as well is that at this time of year, and it's no disrespect to community clubs, but you go away to a community club, a conference team, you could be playing on a heavy, muddy pitch, on a pitch that you've never played on before. The facilities and everything else are really good at Hunslet. We're always treated well when we go up there. So, as I said, it'll be a tough game, but it's a game that the Bears can win, and you never know what might happen on the day. It's a good warm-up for League One as well, I think. Playing another League One team, it'll give the players an idea of what, how they've progressed in pre-season and where they are ahead of the first game of the season.
Definitely. I think it's obviously not as easy a game as we might have hoped for, but like you say, it's a really good run out, a really good test ahead of the start of the league season.
We always get away draws though. I mean, apart from that year where we actually had a cup run, apart from that year, we always get an away draw, although not quite as bad as Scholars. They got Barrow away, which is pretty much as far as they could have possibly had to travel.
Yeah, and hey, at least it wasn't Doncaster away this year.
Yeah, and I didn't manage to get an interview last night because we only spoke in passing, but I did manage to have a chat with Alan Robinson last night as well, and he spoke about the draw, and him and the coaching team were relatively happy with that. What they've said is they will play anyone that's put in front of them. They would have preferred a home draw, obviously, same as what I've said, but in terms of away draws, they were relatively happy with that in terms of how it impacts on their preparation ahead of the season. I think if you get if you get, say, a really, if they're drawn, say, West Wales or one of the Cumbrian teams, then you're looking at getting home late on a Sunday night. It shortens the week in terms of when the next game is and stuff like that. So they're relatively happy about that, and it means that they can get the players prepared. And as I said, as I mentioned, I think they're looking at it as a good opportunity to progress in the cup, but also to use it as an exercise to prepare the players ahead of the league season.
Yep. Great. Well, we'll talk a little more about this game in next week's show, but for now, we're done. So join us next week as we continue our season preview and bring you the rest of our interview with Bears CEO Debbie Watson. And don't forget to subscribe or follow us on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or wherever else you listen. Craig, thanks as always, and catch you next week.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.